It's started. All right. So my name is Gus Kaysen,
I'm
and
Garrett Path.
and we're here on May 8th, 2021, with Greg Bellanti, over Google Meet. So Garrett, do you want to start us off?
Sure. When and where were you born?
I was born in Milwaukee in 1947, October 8th.
Nice. What was your first and fondest memory?
First and fondest memory of. That's a hard one. I got so many of them. Can I say when my first grandson was born?
Sure. It's a good one. What was your family life like growing up?
Good. I had two older brothers, and later on, I had two older or younger sisters. Played a lot of sports. Uh, we didn't sit in the house much when we were kids. There was no such thing as TV. We just, everything was outside. It wasn't football or basketball, baseball, playgrounds, parks, always doing something outside.
What were some of the things that you would do outside with your brothers or your friends when you were younger?
Well, we used to go in the winter, we'd go to the park, and if we didn't play football, there wasn't a real heavy snow, we didn't play football. If it had a good heavy snow, then we would play football because we didn't want anybody to have an advantage. So you had to slow them down with heavy snow. And if that wasn't happening, then we'd go to the park and we'd go ice skating all day or tobogganing. We used to have toboggan races. We tie two toboggans together, go down the hill, have two teams. And the team that was on a toboggan at the end of the hill was the winner. And you could do anything to get the other guys off their toboggan. So exciting.
Was it just on the ice that would form there,
Well, in Mitchell Park, they had what they had called Suicide Hill. And it had a walkway that went down diagonally, an asphalt walkway.
or?
And when you hit that asphalt walkway, you were airborne. When you hit it with a toboggan, you'd be airborne probably for 20 feet. And that's where most of the guys fell off the toboggans. So,
You ever get in a big fall?
oh yeah, had quite a few of them.
What was it like growing up on the South Side?
Good. And there was always something to do. In the summertime, all the playgrounds are open. So, they had horizontal bars and basketball courts, baseball diamonds set up. So you had plenty of things to do in the summer. And in the winter, I said, like I said, we'd either play football outside or ice skate, tobogganing. We had a challenge too. There was a sunken gardens in Mitchell Park. It was probably 2 feet deep, and we'd have challenge run across before the ice would break. See if you could get across without the ice breaking. A couple times, some guys didn't make it. Got a little wet.
A different time for sure.
Yeah.
What was some of your schooling like? Elementary, middle school?
Well, elementary was all nuns, and our pastor at our church was a Golden Glove champ when he was a young lad. So he liked to teach boxing in the gym. And of course, if you had any problems with anybody else, you'd say, well, I think it's about time to put the gloves on for you guys. So we'd settle it in the gym. Teachers were very strict, with the rulers and their pointers, they could do some harm. But it was good. I mean, nobody took anything personal. We laughed at a lot of the stuff, but good
Did,
times, basketball.
did you have any favorite classes when you were in grade school?
I uh, I liked math for some reason. It was probably my easiest subject. Where English it was the hardest. So, but math, I enjoyed math all the way through grade school and high school.
What
You
was
talked.
so
Oh,
oh,
sorry, go ahead.
what was so difficult about English? Just conjugating and
I didn't enjoy reading much. Uh, my grandkids all read like it's nothing, but I only read when I needed to read, like directions to do something. You know, I didn't enjoy reading that much. I don't know. It was one of my downfalls, I believe.
You talked about how you moved a lot when you were younger. Did that have any effect on your young life?
No, not really. No, other than the further we got away from the schools, it was harder to get there. But like in high school, uh, my brother and myself went to South Division. My oldest brother went to Don Bosco. And when we moved from 29th and Pierce, which is about probably 3 miles from school, because we used to walk to school until my brother got his license, and then we'd all chip in and put gas in a car and drive us to school. But most of the time we'd walk to school. Then my parents moved out to New Berlin, and at that time, New Berlin wasn't what it was or is today. I mean, there wasn't expressways when I was a kid. They were just building them then. So it was a little difficult to get to school sometimes, and that was a much further walk. But other than that, the distance, that was the only downfall, really.
so you talked about how you played some sports and you were involved in some activities. What sports did you play, and did you meet anybody there or make any memories that lasted a lifetime?
Oh yeah. Uh, Matter of fact, one of the guys I played football with in grade school happens to have grandkids in the same grade school that my grandkids go to. And I bumped into him at one of their basketball games. So that was very, strange, unbelievable. And as far as sports, yeah, my my brother Bud is only 11 months older than me. So everything we did was, he was the right hand, I was the left hand, basically. We played basketball together. We both played guard. We played football together. He beat me out at quarterback, so I had to play center. And I was probably the smallest center in the conference because we played in a no-weight conference. In those days, the conferences were set up as far as weight because of the size of the kids. And when I was in grade school, I was lucky if I was 5'3", 5'4". And to play in a no-weight conference, that was pretty awesome, except when somebody fell on me or something. But yeah, it was a good time. And my oldest brother was a very good athlete. He was a high school quarterback at Don Bosco for 4 years. And he played baseball. He won the state championship with his baseball team. So me and my other brother always trying to compete with him, but didn't work out too good for us.
So you were very close with your brothers. Are there any fond memories of your younger sisters that you have?
Well, they were pretty young when I went in the service. I think Debbie, who was just younger than me, or the next in line, she was like maybe 8, I think, or 9, and Nancy was like 5 or 4. So yeah, we used to play some tricks on them when they were little, but there's some stories about putting them on top of the kitchen cabinets so they couldn't get in trouble, and putting them in the closet, an accordion case or something like that. And we were just big brothers being big brothers.
Could you kind of talk about your favorite memory that you've had with your older brothers or your older brothers?
Uh, I'm still really close with my brother Bud. You know, I said we're only 11 months apart. With both our birthdays in October, so yeah, we did pretty much everything together. Uh, Fondest memories, just all the years growing up playing sports with him. Just a lot of good memories. I mean, I can't pick out one specific memory, but they're all pretty much fun. I mean, we had our arguments and fights also, don't get me wrong. It wasn't a perfect world, but brothers fight. I mean,
Um, so in the pre-interview, we kind of talked about some interests. You expressed that you were in a car club. Just a quick question: what is your all-time favorite car?
my all-time favorite car that I owned,
Oh, just all-time.
all-time favorite would be a Chevy Nova, 1966, 67.
Do you have any particular reasons, or it's just
I just like that body style. I always liked it. I never owned one. I always liked that body style though.
what was it like enlisting in the army at a young age?
Uh,
Well, actually, before we get into that, do you have any other things you want to touch on about your early childhood?
just that it was a lot different. Like I said, there wasn't a lot of TV. TV that we had, we all sat around and watched it together. And my early years, it was black and white. Uh, so it was a lot of outside activity. And we did and tried everything. I mean, you name it, we tried it. So, that's the biggest thing that I'd say, there's a lot of difference in like somebody growing up today versus how I had it when I was younger. There wasn't the traffic, there wasn't the roads. I mean, everything was slower. Uh, I think it was a great time, you know.
And then I don't think we really talked about your high school experience because I know that for a lot of people is a memorable part of their life. Um, is there any fond memories that you have from high school?
Uh, when me and your grandma went to the prom, that was a good time. Uh, Other than that, I didn't play sports in high school. The only sport that any of the coaches were interested in was wrestling. They wanted me to wrestle. Because of my size, I was small enough and strong enough, I'd probably do pretty well, but I didn't care for wrestling. That, and just the kids growing up together. We had groups in those days. You hung around what we called cliques. One clique would come from their area of the South Side, and our clique would come from our area of the South Side. We'd go to dances at different schools. The Catholic school system would have dances, sponsored dances, and that was a good time in high school.
So you met your wife in when did you meet your wife?
We were in high school.
Do you want to talk about how you met her?
She didn't live too far. She lived in the same neighborhood. I lived on 29th Street. She lived on 33rd. There was 3 brothers in my family. There was 3 girls in her family. So basically, they were pretty popular and we were pretty popular. So kind of bumped into each other at a dance, or I can't remember where it was specifically, but yeah, I think it was at a dance. And I asked her to dance, and one thing led to another, and we started dating, and all the way through high school, we dated, and then I went in the service. When I came home, well, actually, we got married while I was still in the service. I came home on leave before I got discharged, and we got married. In those days, most of the couples got married. They were couples in high school and are longtime friends, and that's who you married.
So could you say it was love at first sight?
Yeah, pretty much for me.
It's pretty admirable, sticking with your high school sweetheart that whole time. You ever have any wonders about how it would have gone if you didn't ask her at that dance?
No, I never even thought about it. Never even crossed my mind. I knew it was going to happen. So,
Destiny, huh?
yeah.
Okay, Gus, you have any other questions?
Do you have any fond memories of any historical events that may have happened when you were growing up?
Well, President Kennedy was killed when we were in high school. I believe it was 65, last year of high school. That was a major event at that time. There were some marches in Milwaukee at that time. I was in the service. So I really don't know how that was. In the service, though, I can tell you from my experiences, you had your differences, but everybody seemed to get along and respect each other.
All right. I think we're done with childhood. If you want to, do you have any last things you want to say about your early life?
No, I could run pretty fast.
There's a curious question by me. I know that there's different events that happen for different generations that really where were you when this happened? For the millennials or Gen X, it'd probably be 9/11. I know that my grandma thinks for her generation it's probably the JFK assassination. So
Yeah.
where were you when you found out that the president was assassinated?
I was in school that day, and they let everybody out of school. think it was right around lunchtime, if I remember right. And it was pretty traumatizing for a lot of people. It's just something you know you don't think about, and when it happens, it's a shock.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Um, what was it like enlisting in the Army? You said you had your high school sweetheart. So just kind of elaborate on that period of your life.
Well, I was young out of high school. In those days, to get a decent job, you had to be 18. Well, I was an early school person. So whenever I graduated or whenever I got out of eighth grade, I was always the youngest. So when I got out of school, I was 17. And I didn't have plans to go to college. In those days, most of the people that went to college were athletes or super smart. Well, I didn't fall in either one of those categories. So, and I couldn't find a decent job. So I figured, well, I'll enlist in the service and see what kind of education they can give me, what kind of training, and move on from there. So that's what I did.
What did your parents think when you decided to enlist?
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, my mom didn't think I was going to do it. And she had to sign for me because I was 17. And actually, I called her when I got the basic training. And I told her I was in the Army. She didn't believe me. But
Do you remember that exact day when you signed?
I remember when I had to go down and take the oath. Yeah. There was quite a few of us in one big room. And you take the oath. They tell you to raise your hand and you take an oath. And then we got on, I believe it was trains. We stopped in Chicago area and picked up a lot of the individuals that they drafted. So there was a lot of enlisted personnel in Milwaukee area. Those are people that volunteered to enter the service. And out of the Chicago area, there was a lot of draftees. So there was a little bit of conflict, not bad. Basic training when I woke up the first day after the first night was a big shock at first. I didn't realize I did it. Well, here I was. So I just told myself I had to make the best of it.
Where was basic training and how was that experience for you?
It was a good experience. I took it as a challenge because a lot of the physical things you're expected to do, you know, somebody that's 17 years old, you look at a lot of that stuff as a challenge. Basic training was in Fort Knox, Kentucky. And after 8 weeks of basic training, I stayed in Fort Knox for advanced, what do they call it? So your MOS, military operating service. So they designate your classes at that point, what you enlisted for. Like I enlisted to be a mechanic. So after basic training, I went to wheel and tank mechanic school. And that was 8 weeks. That was pretty interesting. The tanks were pretty neat to work on. Some of the wrenches were as big as me. And it's kind of fun to drive them. You go through a course where you have to bury a tank in mud. Then you have to get out of the tank and you have to recover it with a recovery vehicle, they call it. It's a bigger tank. So I enlisted in the service with a friend of mine, a high school friend. So his name was Jim. And Jim and I decided we were going to bury this tank so nobody could get it out. Well, they made us dig it out. So it was a challenge, definitely.
Do you think it was helpful having someone from your hometown that you've known for a while be with you through this experience?
Oh, yeah. We were in the same barracks, did pretty much everything together, going through high school and everything. Yeah, it definitely made it easier.
And then what would you say is your like fondest memory from basic training?
Fondest memory? Uh, I kind of liked the pugil stick to pole with big pads on each end, and you get in the ring and you put a helmet on, and the other guy puts on a helmet, and you go at it. And that was like playing football with a pole.
So we know you enlisted. Obviously, you were sent to Germany. What are some fond memories from your time in Germany?
Germany was the memories that I recall are, just the scenery, and it's completely different than the United States. I mean, Europe is a lot older. And where I was stationed in Mainz, they left the part of the town exactly the way it was after Second World War. There was a big cathedral in that specific area. You could go there and, and actually see what it looked like after the war. And that was pretty amazing to see something like that. How much damage a war can do, and how wasteful, and it just devastated that city. And of course, Mainz was on the Rhine River, so that was, a big route of transportation in those days, in the early days. But they're different customs, different the way their buildings are, their architecture is different. Kind of hard to learn the language. And if you don't learn the language, you're going to pay $50 for a $10 pair of shoes. So you had to learn enough just to get through when you go out to eat or something.
Did you ever walk around the town and kind of like appreciate like the scenery? Like, could you describe the scenery a little bit more?
Well, the buildings were right next to each other. A lot of the streets right outside our barracks area were cobblestone. And I'll never forget that because we used to run every morning. Because in Germany, after basic training and AIT training, I went through jump school. That was an additional 6 weeks. And originally, I was supposed to go to someplace on the Canadian border, I thought, and be on a airborne outfit that was winter trained and ski patrol. Well, they ended up sending me to Germany instead, to a airborne mechanized outfit. Mechanized is an airborne unit that has tanks and wheel vehicles that they use. So there was a need for mechanics at that time, and I was a mechanic. Good thing about being a mechanic, I didn't have to pull KP in the kitchen, which was very hard duty. Nobody liked pulling KP. So
Could you talk more about jumps training?
jump school is, again, if you don't take it as a challenge, it'll beat you down. Because I remember one time specifically that I was talking to Linda, and my platoon sergeant walked by, and he made me get down and give him push-ups because I didn't have a belt loop or something. My belt didn't go through one of the loops, and he noticed it. And I said, "Well, I was talking on the phone to my girlfriend." And he says, "I don't care. You got to get down and give him 50 push-ups." And that's the whole jump school training is all about discipline, self-discipline, how you react to it, the physical stress that you go through, the training that you go through. You have to jump from a 200-foot tower with a chute on a cable. And the first time you walk up there and you look down 200 feet and you say, "Wow, I don't know if I can do this." Well, once they hook you up, you don't have much choice because you're going out that door. Either you got to jump or they're going to push you out. So, and then you have to go through 5 jumps through a course of 6 weeks, and then you graduate, and then you move on to your outfit for the rest of your duration of your service.
What was the biggest thing that you did in Germany?
The biggest thing, we went on a big problem in Holland. We did an airborne operation in Holland, and it was the whole battalion went. We all jumped, dropped tanks and trucks and jeeps and all our equipment from the planes. We set up. We were there, I think, a week. That was one big operation, and the other operation was winter operation, which was in Baumholder, Germany, which gets pretty cold. I mean, you physically cannot touch a metal object in the winter there because your hand will stick to it and it hurts. The metal is really cold. And with the tanks, especially when getting in and out of them, you got to be careful. Plus, it was a tank range, and we fired the tanks. That was pretty exciting.
Did you ever spend any time around Berlin? I know you talked about being by mines, but
no, never seen Berlin. I went to Frankfurt. I went to school in a town called Oberammergau, which was supposedly Hitler's summer retreat. And it's a very religious town. They have a very beautiful cathedral there. Today, if you looked it up on the internet, I mean, it's just beautiful town. It's up in the mountains. I believe it's in Bavaria. So I went to school there for, I think it was 3 weeks. Yeah, I think it was 3 weeks. For that class, it was a logistics class. In logistics, when you have that MOS, what you do is you do all the paperwork in the motor pool.
You mentioned how German was kind of a tricky language earlier. Do you still can you speak a little German still?
No. No.
No Guten Tag, no Gesundheit?
No.
I know German culture is a lot different than the United States. Was it hard to kind of adapt?
Uh, no, because around military posts, uh, you get a taste of the culture. But in my eyes, they try to assimilate to you. You know, they try to make you feel comfortable. Uh, like even in the States, when I was stationed in Georgia, you know, uh, you'd think it'd be so different because you're down south, but it wasn't because it was a military post. And everybody around those posts generally, you can tell when there's a military post.
Um, Germany's full of great food. What's probably the tastiest thing you say you ate there?
Wiener Schnitzel, yeah. Their sausages are unbelievable. And their dark beer was pretty good. And I don't drink beer now, but I did occasionally drink dark beer in Germany uh, in the popped up bottles.
Gus, you have anything else to say?
Uh, do you have anything else from Germany that you would like to tell everyone?
I made my first night jump in Germany, and they dropped us on a corrugated airfield. Corrugated, uh, there's steel ramps like that hook together. They lay down for a quick airfield, uh, and uh, that was quite an experience. I think I had bruises for a month.
Were there any jumps that didn't go so well?
No, most of mine were pretty good, except for I remember one jump. My jump master, uh, my oldest brother, was in the army before me by 2 years, I think, and he was also airborne. So obviously, you know, I had to meet the challenge also. So that's why I went airborne. One of the reasons. That and more pay. But anyways, this jump master was my brother's jump master when he was stationed in the States. So this jump master he liked to play jokes on me. Like he'd hand me my static line and push me out the door. And I'm supposed to think that that's my static line, that I'm not hooked up. And well, obviously I didn't think he would do that, but and then on our equipment jumps, they strap to the front of your harness, and the equipment jumps that he made me jump, the bags that I had to jump, I could put my chin on them. That's how big they were. I couldn't lift them to the door. Two guys had lifted in the door and pushed the bag out and then pushed me out. So they like to play little games like that to try to, intimidate you. But
So we know that you were in Germany. You spent some time in Vietnam. I'm not going to talk about that much, but quickly, do you have any good memories from your time in Vietnam?
no, other than when I went on R&R, I went to Japan for R&R, and even that didn't turn out well. I caught malaria while I was in Japan.
What was it like going from Germany and then kind of like being restationed?
Well, it was hard. I mean, I went to Vietnam on my 18th birthday, the day of my birthday. So that was hard to deal with. We were having a birthday party, and at the end of the birthday party, I had to say my goodbyes and get on a bus to catch a plane to Oakland and then fly into Vietnam.
So did you come back from back to the US after Germany?
Yes. They give you leave time. They usually give you a leave before you make a transfer like that. So I think I had a 3-day leave or a 6-day leave. I can't remember exactly what it was. It wasn't very long. So, my parents had planned a birthday party for me. And then after the party, like I said, I got on a bus right away and left.
Do you want to talk about that leave a little bit?
Oh, it's good to see everybody, My sisters, my brothers were both there, and all my relatives. One of my high school teachers came. Uh, Linda was there. No, it was a good birthday party. Bad thing is, it's your birthday party that you're leaving.
Is this the leave that you married
No,
on?
no.
No? Do you want to talk about that leave when you got back?
Well, when I came back from Germany, I was stationed in Fort Benning, Georgia. They made me an instructor then. I instructed on booby trap trails and jungle warfare. So when I was stationed there, Linda had come down to see me. She spent a week down there. And then she came back, and then I think that was it was end of November or early December. And then I had gone home for Christmas leave, which was a week. And we got married. Wasn't that Christmas? It was in April. I came back in April, and we got married. We got married in the courthouse first because it was a short leave. I think it was a 3-day leave. And then when I got out of the service, we got remarried in the church.
Do you have any more things about your military experience or about your time in Germany or Vietnam that you want to talk about before we move on?
Just, it just, you have to take it as a challenge. Like I said, you have to challenge yourself because some of it could get difficult at times.
Um,
The age of the military when I was in Vietnam was probably 18, 19, 20-year-old kids.
Did you ever write letters back to your parents or to Linda about just what was happening or just to say hi?
I never told anybody or even wrote letters about what was going on. Just basically telling them, how I felt and I was doing fine and everything was okay. How was everything at home? When I was in the hospital, I wrote more letters, but in the field, I didn't write much.
Would you be comfortable talking about why you were in the hospital?
I had malaria. I had the worst kind of malaria you can get, but I had a mild case. So it takes, I think I was there 36 days in the hospital. And then they found other things that were wrong at the time, but
I know at that time there was a lot of political backlash about like why the war was happening. Were you a part of that backlash, or did you just not really care?
Well, everybody seen stuff on TV or in letters or radio. Basically, we try to keep our minds straight and clear, so you concentrate on staying alive, basically. Uh, you're all together there. There's no bad, good. You're all the same. You all wear the same uniform, and you all look the same.
Is there anything else that you want to talk about before we move on?
No, it was traumatizing coming back from Vietnam because I came back through Oakland when all this stuff was going on. And they really did not show any respect for veterans at that time.
Do you want to talk about that experience a bit?
Well, that was pretty traumatizing because they were throwing cans at us and spitting on us and yelling stuff like baby killers and and there's no guy in the service, I think, today that say, I'm going to go over there and kill people just for the sake of killing people. You enlist in the service, and what they ask you to do, you do it. You follow orders. You don't question orders. You think that the authority knows what's going on and they're doing the right thing.
What was your time after getting back from the service like?
Well, it was pretty hard. I came back in the second wave, basically. The first wave got all the jobs. So it was hard to secure a decent job. And we were married young. I think the first couple places we rented were pretty rough. But other than that, it's great to be home. Obviously, we had started our life together. Wasn't much longer. Our first son was born, Dean, and so you have responsibilities to meet, and you meet them the best way you know how. And it took me a while to get settled in a trade. Eventually, I got into printing after probably 2-3 years bouncing around.
What was it like moving around a lot as a young family?
That's pretty hard. I mean, thank God we were young. But the biggest thing is, what you can afford and what you were used to as a kid is two different stories. My parents, when we lived in Magellan Drive in New Berlin, when I was 15, they built that house, and it was a big 2-story. And here I am, married with a young child and a wife to worry about, and you do what you can. And our first apartment, I think we didn't have running water for a month. I used to go to a gas station before I went to work. That was a block from the house, and my work was 3 blocks from the house, and I'd stop at the gas station and basically showered in the sink. So that was hard getting started. But once I got settled in a trade, then it was a different story.
Um, could you express what it was like having a child so young and like um kind of providing the best for him when he was young?
Well, the bad thing is when you have children young, it's great uh, when you get through all of that. Because when they're young, like myself, I had a hard time. I didn't have much time to myself. I was always trying to work and pick up extra money here and there. So uh, basically, Linda ran the household even, after Dean's sisters were born. Uh, I had to work second shift majority of my career in printing, second or third shift. So I'm home during the day; they're in school. So that's what's great about grandkids. I get to spend time with my grandkids. Where it was a little shortchanged with my kids, but I did spend as much time as I could with my son. It was basketball. He was involved in basketball. And fortunately, where we lived at that time in Dousman, open gym was every Saturday, and I didn't work on Saturdays unless it was an emergency. So I'd take him to the gym and we play basketball. And all the older kids would let him play because I would play. So I said, I'll play if you want me to play, but you got to let my son play too. So that's how he learned how to play basketball.
Um, do you want to kind of talk about your fondest memory um with your family kind of in that early stage?
In the early stage, just try to remember every birthday, and there was a lot of good times. As they got older, I think like Dean when he was coaching and his team won the state championship. That was pretty memorable. I remember that the rest of my life. Uh, and then when the girls did certain things with, like when Jenny played basketball or Gina played basketball, it was just a good time watching them play.
You talk about your career in the trades. Um, do you kind of want to like elaborate on that start for like apprenticeship and like getting into the trades and kind of how that affected your life?
Oh, it's a long story, and it's got some strange points to it. I initially got into the trade. I was working at the phone company, and I was installing phones at W.A. Krieger. I was running the lines through the building and stuff. And at that time, W.A. Krieger was the biggest printer in the country. And I walked up to one of the foremen there and I said, how would a young guy get into this trade? And he says, well, the best bet would be to go to school and learn part of the trade and then try to get into an apprenticeship. So I went to night school for what they call stripping. That's working with uh, photographic films. So I wanted to be in the photographic and camera and stripping edge of it. So when I finished that, I went back to Krieger and I talked to this foreman again. I asked to see him and he did talk to me. And I said, well, I finished this school. You think you could get me a job? And he said, well, we have an opening for a general worker, but it's in the printing department. It's in the presses. And I says, I don't care. I'll take it as long as I have an opportunity to get in. So I started out as a general worker, and all you do as a general worker is move loads around and throw paper all night. I don't know how many tons of paper I would throw a night, but it was a lot. And it's all physical. So, but you just have to tell yourself, well, it isn't forever. And it wasn't probably but 6 months, and I was on a press training as a feeder operator. Feeder operator is responsible for putting the paper in the press, putting the ink in the press, washing the blankets, the printing blankets, and assisting the pressman, basically. And in those days, there was a pressman, a second pressman, and a feeder operator. And the automation, it wasn't what it was when I retired out of the trade. When I retired out of the trade, you could stand in front of the press and just push a button and basically do everything. But I moved around a lot, trying to advance. And I did advance. I worked, I believe I had 40 years, 41 years in printing. And I started out as a general worker, and I worked my way all the way up to general manager.
Do you want to talk about kind of your family life while the kids were growing up? Any like fond memories that you have with them?
Yeah, we used to swim a lot. We had a swimming pool in the backyard in Dousman, and kids liked swimming a lot. Linda didn't like water, never learned how to swim. So it was the little touch and go getting the kids to like water because they were intimidated by their mom. So, but we enjoyed swimming, and like I said, basketball was a good time. Playing basketball on a driveway all the time. All their different plays and stuff that they were in school. Always tried to make those, making their first communion, confirmation. All those things were good times. And, we come from a close family. Linda's parents, very close family. My parents, very close. So we always had big family gatherings. I can't think of any specific things, one thing. Because when I think about it, it's just all the thoughts, all the good times. I think of the funny things that happened. Dean's playing basketball in his bedroom, falls up against the wall, puts a hole in the drywall, big as a basketball.
I know you had a lot of pets when you were a parent.
Yeah.
How did that kind of like shape the family life?
Well, Dean was the one that was the pet master. Yeah, if it wasn't dogs, it was chickens, ducks, turtles, frogs, you name it. I come home from work and there was something new in the house every day. It was hilarious at times. But no, I think kids growing up need a dog or some type of pet. To teach them how to love something and care for something. And that's a big part of growing up, I think.
As the kids were growing up and getting out of high school and college, What did you what would you say was your favorite part of, like, watching that experience?
Oh, it's just a great experience the day they graduate from college. You know, it's just unreal. High school was unbelievable when they all graduated from high school. You know, you just think, wow, time went so fast, you know. And here they are now, they all have their own families, and, you know, it's great.
I know we've kind of gone past the 50s and 60s era, now into the later part of your life. But as we're wrapping up here, a big thing that happened in the 70s, early 70s, was Watergate with Richard Nixon. What can you tell us about, like, how you first felt when the rumors first came out and when he was, when he resigned? How did you feel?
You know, to be perfectly honest with you, in those days, I didn't have no interest in politics. And I think part of it is because, you know, when you have a growing family and you're trying to make a decent wage to give them a halfway decent life, you just don't think about things like that. I mean, I seen it on TV and I heard about it. I thought it was terrible. You know, how could something like that happen in the United States? But other than that, I wasn't, I could care less about politics in those days. It's different now, you know, being retired and my family's all on their own now. And I see more politics and I want to get more involved. You know, you listen to the stuff today and it's everywhere. You know, you can't go anywhere without politics being involved.
Is that a pretty big difference, you'd say, between back in 70s, 80s, and like nowadays, like just how politics is involved in everything?
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, it's just, you know, this woke thing and, you know, it's just, well, social media has a lot to do with it, I think. Uh, you can get a lot of people to support you on social media, where in those days, you know, you'd have to go door to door or get somebody to put you on TV, I guess. But yeah, it's a world of difference now.
Do you kinda wanna talk about, like, your later life after, your all of your kids had, like, moved out and kind of, like, um, your most fond and, like, best experience from that?
Well, after the kids move out, there's I don't know, a space that needs to be filled, I guess. You lose some of that family. And, you know, to be perfectly honest with you, Linda and myself, we don't do a lot uh, as far as going out to eat a lot or going to parties, or we don't do a lot of that. Uh, I enjoy uh, working around the house. I enjoy helping the kids work around their houses. Uh, and I've done that pretty much. Enjoy, biggest thing is the grandkids, a big part of life. I mean, you know, there's a lot of things you can enjoy with your grandchildren. And I try to enjoy every minute of it.
All right, Garrett, do you have anything left?
Just quickly, you're saying how when the kids leave, there's kind of this big open, like a lot of your time and energy was for raising them, for getting them out of the house, getting them the things. You ever pick any hobbies back up in your later life?
Well, yeah, motorcycling has always been part of my life. I think I had my first motorcycle when I was 14. So, I occasionally used to take trips. It's not as much as I used to. I used to take a couple trips a year, probably for a 3-day weekend or sometimes a 5-day week. Uh, but I haven't done that much since I retired. After the kids were gone, no, I got more involved in it for that length of time until I retired. And what I do is I buy and sell motorcycles. So basically, I've had a decent motorcycle every year of my life, sometimes two, and it didn't cost me a nickel because I'd buy them cheap, clean them up, make any repairs on them that need it, and I sold them for more than what I paid for it. I didn't do that when I was younger. When I was younger, I spent too much money on them. And then I got smart. I said, well, it's a seasonal thing. Why should I go out and spend $20,000 on a motorcycle when I can buy one for 15 that's just as nice, clean it up and sell it for 17, 18. So I did that for many, many years. But that's what I enjoyed. I enjoyed riding. Yeah.
You also talked about how your grandkids played a big role in your life. Do you want to talk about like your fondest memories of your grandkids?
Uh, the plays, the plays that you were in were great. I mean, just unbelievable. I'll never forget them. That and just having fun with you guys. You know, uh, every one of you have your own special little talent. So it's fun to watch you do your special things. Uh, yeah, I enjoy it. It makes life worth living, believe me. And someday I hope you can enjoy your grandkids the way I have.
So, Garrett, do you have any last things?
No, I think we're just about ready to wrap it up here.
Um, all right. Well, is there any like last stories or like little things about your life that you wanna kind of talk about?
No, I think for the memory that I have, I thought I did pretty good.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Um, it was a pleasure having you, and thank you for sharing all of these great things with us and sharing your life. Um, and yeah, so thank you.
Okay, Garrett, thank you.
All right, now how do I stop the recording?